Hi again, Dan from MHCP here with another video. I'm starting a series here on U.S. military body armor from the Korean War up to modern uh, times, and I decided to pick a kind of unique vest to start, something that some of you out there may not have seen, and that is the variable type body armor, fragmentation, and small arms protective for ground troops. That's a bit of a mouthful. Vest. Now, prior to this vest, the U.S. Army had been issuing fragmentation protective vests only, meaning that they were only rated to stop shrapnel from grenades, mortars, landmines, artillery shells, things of that nature. They would reduce the severity of some small arms fire, pistol, submachine gun rounds, maybe a rifle round that was a glancing blow or at a distance, but a direct hit from say an AK-47, the primary weapon of the Vietnamese, it wouldn't do anything. It would go right through it. So in 1965, Natick Laboratories had developed the first bullet-resistant vest for the U.S. military. It was primarily designed for air crews. I do have one. We'll discuss that in a later video. But they took what they learned from the air crew vest and decided they wanted to make one that would be suited for ground troops, provide them a true bullet-resistant vest to help reduce casualties in Vietnam. The result of that was the vest you see here. It was first field tested in 1967 with the 1st Cavalry. While it did prove successful in providing protection, its primary issue was that it was too hot and heavy for mobile infantry soldiers in Vietnam. A vest weighed about 20 pounds, so that's pretty heavy, especially in the humid jungles when you got to pack an LBE, a couple hundred rounds of ammunition, 4 quarts of water, your rifle, your helmet, all of that. So the vest primarily ended up in the hands of convoy troops, driving supply trucks, jeeps, artillery units, things of that nature where the troops were less mobile, and therefore they could benefit from the vest because the weight wasn't so much a factor for them. So that's kind of the history of it there. Not a lot of these were issued. I think only a total of 42,000 were made. Seems like a lot, but hundreds of thousands of the other fragmentation vests were made over the course of between the 50s up until the late 70s before they started to be phased out. And 14,000 of them were never sent to Vietnam after 1970, because a lot of these, even in country, remained in supply. Troops just weren't drawing them. They were too heavy, and they didn't want to wear them. And I do believe that was the case with this vest. It was dated December of 1969, so if it did go overseas, it doesn't look like it was issued. It's in new old stock condition. It may have just stayed over here until it was surplused. After the war, though, some of them did end up in law enforcement hands. I have talked to at least one police officer who was served during the 80s, and he said he did wear just the inner portion, which we'll show that here in a bit. The vest could be worn in 2 components. So I'll start off with going over the manual, kind of show you the inside here slowly. If you want to, that way, if you guys want to actually read a little bit about it, you can. Here's the introductory page. You can pause these. I'm not going to read them, but if you want to read them, you can pause it. Gives the instructions on how to assemble the vest and use it. You can see here where it talks about, vehicles and armored troop carriers, vehicle drivers, guards, and military policemen. In general, people who do not have a great deal of walking to do. So this vest was, this manual was written after 1967 when they had determined that it really was too heavy for the average light infantryman. Here it talks about the plate material. It was a ceramic and fiberglass, not unlike modern plates issued in, say, the Interceptor body armor. That's standard issued to U.S. military today. Kind of important note here, do not lose the plates. That's kind of key. Don't Not a whole lot you can do without those. Some of these U.S. military manuals are kind of funny. They're really broken down, pretty basic, as we used to say in the Army, breaking it down Barney style. Unfortunately, sometimes they made these almost comical with how simple they were. Here it talks about a plate taking a hit and what to do when that happens. A little note area, discuss anything like that. And then all the U.S. military armor books like this that came with each vest have this record of hit, which if your vest took a hit, they wanted to know a little about it for research purposes, and you'd send this back to the Natick labs where they could benefit from that. And here it talks, there's the address where you could send it and everything. So that's a little bit about the book if you want to look at that. So now we'll talk a little bit about what the vest is made of. Not the soft armor was like a fragmentation protective like the previous vests. It's made of a ballistic nylon, not Kevlar. Kevlar didn't start to be used in U.S. military body armor until the early 80s with the advent of the personal armor system ground troops vest. So it's ballistic nylon. It's very soft. It's not quite like the nylon that's used in the M69 vest. This was a ballistic felt, so it's kind of unique. And then you had, like I said, the front and rear ceramic plates. The plates could be worn in the carrier or without the carrier, which is what I've heard a lot of the police officers would do. They'd wear just the plate, and it's kind of cool how they made that. They made it to be variable in weight so troops could kind of tailor it to their needs. So it had these shoulder straps here, which is secured to the back plate, and then it had its own waist strap to keep it tight around your waist. So that's the plate there. Now these would stop a 30 caliber ball round. A 30-06 round is what it was rated to stop, which would be plenty to stop a 7.62 by 39, which is the AK-47 round. And these vests, like I said, these plates they're pretty solid, pretty heavy. I'll take a close up here of the plate. There's a little more information there if you want to pause and read it. You can see in the top there where it was made in 12 of 69. Another cool feature on this vest was that it did have a quick release. So if you were in a situation, trapped in a vehicle hit a landmine, rolled over, it's on fire, rolled into a rice paddy, and you needed to get out quickly, and you didn't want this vest weighing you down, you would pull this shoulder quick release, and then that would allow it to quickly come over, and that way you could get out of the vehicle and egress much faster. Interestingly enough is that the first generation of Interceptor body armor issued in the early part, mostly up till the midway through the Iraq War, did not have that quick release, and they ended up having issues where troops did get stuck in vehicles, some who drowned because they could not get the vest off. And then they came up with a second generation, the improved version, which did have a quick release system. So it's interesting how some of the lessons they learned with this vest fell out of use only to return 40 years later. So I'll take a look here close up at the label. So that's what we have here on the variable ground troops body armor, small arms and fragmentation protective. If you have additional questions, feel free to comment. Be happy to answer anything you have. And we'll be following this up with some additional videos on U.S. military body armor. Hopefully we'll get a better camera mount here so these will improve in the future. But appreciate any advice, comments. questions, and if you have anything you want to see or hear from me, just let me know. Thanks for watching.